Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop tutorial. In this one we're going to explore some of the various filters that Photoshop has to offer. There are a lot in there. We will not spend a lot of time going over every single one of them, but I'm going to show you some of the cool ones and give you some time to play around as well. So with this classwork, as usual, download today's exercise files and open them all up in Photoshop. You have a lot to work with here. You have these ones that are called filter. You have filter 1 through 7, and then you have motion 1 through 4. This first part, we're going to focus on these ones that are titled filter. So let's start with filter 01. So when we add a filter, it will be permanent unless we convert for a smart object. So for each one of these filters, we're going to convert to a smart object before we do anything. So on the background layer, you're going to right click and do convert to smart object. There's also a second way that you can do it in this one. So if you do convert to smart object, it'll do that. Or if I command Z, I could show you the second way. So the other way to do it is to come up here to filter. This is where we're going to hang out for a minute. And you can do convert for smart filters right here. So that will also give you the same thing. If I click convert for smart filters and click OK, it does this, which is the exact same thing. So either one of those two options will give you the same result. You can right click and do convert to smart object, or filter, convert to smart filters. Exact same thing, so don't worry. But make sure you do that first before we do the next step. So now that it's a smart object, we can go back up to filter, and we're going to hang out in here for a second called filter gallery. So click filter gallery, and may or may not pop up with whatever your default one is, but that's okay. There's lots of filters in here. So you click on each of these little folder drop downs. You can see all of these different filters that it will add to your photo. This one, this sketch one, charcoal, whatever it is. Just pick one that you want to play with. I'm going to do this plastic wrap one because this one looks really freaky. I like that one. Each filter also has these slider adjustments or different ways you can change the filter. So you can see I can turn these sliders down and it still adds the filter, but it's a little less extreme. Or I can make it less subtle and just go all the way out with these. So whatever you want to do, just pick one of these crazy filters. Take a second to explore and pick whatever filter you would like to go with. And then once you've picked one, click OK. And again, it's very important that we did that first step of converting it to a smart object. So it gives us this option right here of smart filters that we can turn on and off. If you did not do a smart object or smart filter, once you've added the filter, then it's permanent. There's no way to get it back. You can command Z and start over. But now with the smart filter, it allows us to change some stuff. I can double click on filter gallery. I can come back in here. I can make some tweaks and change my mind, or I can drop this in the trash can and get rid of it altogether. So the smart object will allow us to do that, which is good. So pick whatever filter you want. For these remaining filter files on filters 2 through 7, I want you to add any filter you like to each one. Just make sure each one is different. So explore the different types of filters. So I'll do another one with you right here. First thing is convert to smart object. Here we go. And then you could play back in the filter gallery. If you click filter, make sure you don't click on this top one. Click on this one that says filter gallery. This one actually just does your previous option. So if I click on this one, it won't actually open the filter gallery sometimes. It might just go straight to the same one that you just did. So be careful of clicking on that. If you click filter gallery here, it might just do whatever your last option was. So make sure you always click on this one right here. That will open it back up, and then you can pick another one. Maybe something like this charcoal, or this graphic pen. Something to keep in mind, if yours doesn't look black and white, how these look black and white, it'll be whatever colors you have set over here. So mine are black and white because these are set to black and white. But if I change them, let me see, if I click on here, maybe I set this to red, maybe I set this one to blue or something. Whatever colors you have here will affect the color options in the filter gallery. So let's go back to the filter gallery again. If I come back down here to these sketch ones, see now they're red and blue and they're no longer black and white. So the colors that you see will be determined by whatever colors you have preset back on your home screen. So I'm going to do something like that and click OK. Now I could do that. And again, these are smart filters, so I can turn them on and off. If I want to change it, I can change these. So you still have a lot of freedom to play around here. Let's change that. And let's go back into it again. Mess around with it. See, this one will be different because I've already set it to the red and blue, so I need to add a new filter, and I can't do this one again. I have to go back to filter gallery again, and this will change my new colors. See how they're black, or they're blue and yellow now. So just play around with your colors and whatever other filters you want to add to it. So do the same thing for all these filter files. Each one, don't do the motion ones, just do all these ones that say filter. Have fun, just take a minute, explore each one, and add whatever filter you want to all of these pictures. Just have a good time. So pause this video, explore that, and then when you're done, come back to me here on this motion one. Okay, so for this one, we're going to add a very specific filter. We're going to add a blur filter to make it look like this guy's running super fast and the background is blurry. So for this one, we're going to create, we need 2 layers, so we need to duplicate this one. So Command J to duplicate them. And we're going to rename both of these so we don't get mixed up. This top one we're going to rename to runner. And this bottom one we're going to rename to blur. So I know that that's the one with the blur effect on it. So the blur effect is the one we're going to add the filter to. So this one needs to be converted into a smart object. So the bottom layer, the blur one, right click on it and do convert to smart object, or filter convert for smart filters. For this one, we're actually going to add a filter that's not in the filter gallery. So make sure that you convert it to a smart object or smart filter. There we go. Perfect for the blur one. And I'm going to hide this top one for a second so you can see the difference. So we're going to go to filter. And this one, we're not going to go to the filter gallery. There's a bunch of filters right here. There's a whole bunch of filters that we haven't even gotten into yet. So for this one, we're going to go to blur. And we're going to go to blur and then come down to motion blur. So with the motion blur, you'll see that now he's starting to get slightly blurry. This is a specific kind of blur. There's actually different kinds of blur. Motion blur is like when you have a slow shutter speed. So you can see right here, as I start increasing this distance, he starts to get blurrier and it starts going from side to side, making it look like he's moving. If I go too fast, it looks like that. That's not what I want. I just wanted to make him look like he's slightly blurry. Maybe right about there. That looks good. And I did a smart filter so I could turn this on and off, or I could change it if I need to. So now that the background is blurry, let's turn on the runner one, and now we're going to mask this guy out. So now click on runner, go to your quick selection tool, and let's start selecting this guy out. So do a nice clean selection as good as you can. Take a second if you need to continue practicing with the quick selection tool. The good thing about this effect is we don't need to select and mask the edges because it's actually okay and works better if these edges are a little fuzzy. Let's look around. That looks pretty good. But this one, actually, don't worry too much about the edges because the motion blur is going to blur the edges anyway. So we don't need to do any select and mask for this one. All right. Looks good. All right, now that you have him selected, pause the video if you don't have him selected just yet, but once you do have him selected, you're going to click Add a Layer Mask. And what you can see now is we have him masked out right here, and now the bottom layer, which is blurry, is coming through on the background. So it looks like he's frozen and he's running super fast. And we can change the motion blur again. Over here on motion blur, since it's a smart filter, I can double click on it. I can come back in here. I can still mess with it. Again, don't make it too high because then it's going to look weird and not real. We want it to look just subtle enough like he's moving. And as I mentioned, the selected mask doesn't really matter because it's blurry around the edges anyway. So it's okay if you don't have it super clean. But that is the motion blur effect. So now we've changed it to make it look like this guy is moving super fast. So for these remaining motion ones, I want you to do the exact same thing. So for motion 2, same thing with the car. Select out the car, make it look like everything else is blurry except for the car. Same thing with this guy. Select this guy out, blur the background, make him look like he's running faster than everyone else. And same thing with the dog. So you need to duplicate it, add the motion blur to the bottom, and mask out the subject on the top one. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with all these filter ones for today. Make sure you take a screenshot of everything that you've edited with all of your exercise files, all your crazy filters on these ones, and your cool motion blur effect on these ones. Okay, take your screenshots, have fun, and let me know if you have any questions.